My name is Vorn, and I am about to tell you the story of the greatest military blunder in the history of the Velnath Collective. You might want to sit down for this one. Actually, scratch that. You will definitely want to sit down, because what I am about to share with you will make your scales itch, your tendrils curl, and your confidence in our species' intelligence drop faster than a meteorite through atmosphere. I was there. I watched it happen. And yes, before you ask, I did try to warn them. Nobody listened. They never do. It started in the War Council chambers on Velnath Prime, 3 cycles ago. The High Command had gathered to discuss the, quote, human problem, unquote. The humans had been expanding through our territory, settling on worlds we had marked for colonization, and generally being an inconvenience. Not a threat, mind you, just annoying. Like those little parasites that live in the ventilation systems and make that clicking noise at night. Commander Kellic stood at the center of the chamber, his 4 eyes gleaming with what I can only describe as unfortunate enthusiasm. He was tall, even for our species, and he had this habit of gesturing wildly when he got excited. Which was often. Too often. Colleagues, he announced, spreading his upper appendages wide, I bring you the solution to our human infestation. Infestation. That is what he called them. I should have known right then that we were doomed. We have developed, Kellic continued, practically vibrating with pride, a bioweapon unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. We call it the Cascade virus. The room filled with approving clicks and hums. I remained silent. Someone had to. This virus. Kellic went on, pulling up a holographic display that showed a spiral of genetic material rotating in midair, is designed to mutate. Rapidly. Constantly. Every 6 hours it changes its protein structure, making it impossible for any immune system to adapt. By the time the host body recognizes the threat, the virus has already become something else entirely. Elegant, murmured Counselor Tharos from the back row. She was old, older than most of us, and she had survived the Krell Wars. I respected her. Usually, but not today. How quickly does it kill? Asked Junior Officer Mira, leaning forward with interest. 72 hours from initial infection to complete system failure, Kellic replied. It attacks the respiratory system first, then the neural pathways, then the cardiovascular system. 3 strikes, 3 systems, 3 days. Clean. Efficient. Perfect. Perfect. Right. Because nothing says perfect like unleashing a constantly mutating bioweapon on a species you barely understand. I raised my lower left appendage. Commander Kellic, if I may? He turned to me, his expression shifting from triumphant to irritated in the span of a heartbeat. Born. Always the skeptic. What is your concern this time? My concern, I said slowly, carefully, because I knew nobody wanted to hear this, is that we know almost nothing about human biology. We have limited data on their adaptive capabilities. We do not know how their immune systems function under extreme pressure. Perhaps we should run more simulations, gather more intelligence, maybe even conduct a small-scale test before we commit to full deployment. The silence that followed was not the thoughtful kind. It was the kind of silence that precedes mockery. Kellic smiled, not a friendly smile. Vorn, your caution is noted and dismissed. We have spent 2 cycles developing this weapon. Our scientists assure us it is foolproof. The humans will fall within a standard month, and their worlds will be ours. Clean. Efficient. Perfect. There was that word again. I formally register my objection, I said. Your objection is recorded, Kellic replied, waving a dismissive appendage. And ignored. We deploy in 3 days. And that, dear reader, is how we doomed ourselves. The deployment went exactly as planned. Too exactly. Looking back, that should have been warning sign number 2, 3, and 4. We released the Cascade virus simultaneously in 17 major human population centers. New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, Lagos, Sydney. The list goes on. Our delivery systems were invisible undetectable. Microscopic drones carrying the virus particles, released into ventilation systems, water supplies, transportation hubs. Within 48 hours, every major human city on their home planet was infected. I watched the reports come in from our monitoring station orbiting their moon. The humans called it Luna. Quaint. Initial infection rates exceeding projections, reported Officer Jux, studying his display panel with satisfaction. 93% of targeted populations showing symptoms within the first 24 hours. The symptoms started exactly as our models predicted. Fever, coughing, difficulty breathing, and the humans panicked. Their medical facilities overflowed. Their governments declared states of emergency. Their news broadcasts showed scenes of chaos, people in masks, hospitals packed beyond capacity, scientists scrambling to understand what was happening. "It is working perfectly," Kellex announced during our third-day briefing. His 4 eyes were practically glowing. "The first wave of deaths has begun. Their medical systems are collapsing. Their morale is breaking. Within 2 weeks, their planet will be ours." I said nothing. What could I say? The data supported his conclusion. The humans were dying. The virus was mutating every 6 hours, just as designed. Their doctors could not keep up. Every time they thought they understood it, it changed. Every treatment they developed became obsolete before they could deploy it. By day 7, the human death toll had reached 2 million. By day 10, 5 million. By day 14, 12 million. It was a catastrophe. A horror. And according to our projections, just the beginning. They have stopped trying to find a cure, Mira reported on day 16. Their scientists have given up. They are now focused entirely on comfort care and death management. "Excellent," Kellex said. I should have been relieved. The war was won. The humans were defeated. Our expansion could continue. But something bothered me, something I could not quite identify. A feeling. An instinct. The kind of instinct that kept my ancestors alive when the predators came. "Sir," I ventured during the day 18 briefing, "have we noticed any unusual patterns in the infection data?" Kellex turned to me with barely concealed annoyance. "Unusual how?" "I am not certain," I admitted, "but the mortality rate has plateaued. It peaked at day 14 and has remained relatively stable since then." "So?" Mira interjected. "That simply means everyone susceptible is already infected. The deaths will continue. This is expected." "Is it, though?" I pulled up my own analysis on the shared display. "Look at this. The death rate per 1,000 infected has actually decreased slightly over the past 3 days. In New York, it dropped by 4%, in Tokyo by 6%, in Mumbai by 8%. Statistical noise, Kellex dismissed. Variations in reporting. Perhaps their systems are so overwhelmed they have stopped counting accurately. Perhaps, I agreed, but I did not believe it. I spent the next 2 days running my own analysis, cross-referencing data streams that nobody else was bothering to look at. Medical records, social media posts, communications intercepts, news broadcasts, and anything I could access. And that is when I saw it. The first case was in a hospital in Boston. A doctor named Marcus Williams. He had contracted the virus on day 3 of the outbreak. Severe symptoms. Complete respiratory distress. By all projections, he should have died on day 6, but he did not. He recovered on day 8. Fully recovered. Walked out of the hospital on day 10. His doctors were baffled. They ran tests. His immune system had developed antibodies. But not just any antibodies. Broad-spectrum antibodies that remained effective even as the virus mutated. Somehow, impossibly, his body had learned to recognize the core structure of the virus, the part that could not change without rendering it non-functional. I flagged the case. Then I started looking for others. Elena Rodriguez in Madrid, infected day 5. Should have died day 8. Recovered day 11. David Park in Seoul, infected day 4. Should should have died day 7. Recovered day 9. Rita Okonkwo in Lagos. Infected day 6. Should have died day 9. Recovered day 12. James Thompson in Sydney. Infected day 7. Should have died day 10. Recovered day 13. But the pattern was undeniable, and it was spreading. Commander, I reported on day 23, we have a significant problem. Kellex did not even look up from his display. Vorn, if this is another one of your statistical anomalies, I do not have time for it. It is not an anomaly, I insisted. The humans are adapting to the virus. That got his attention. All 4 eyes snapped to me. Adapting? That is impossible. The virus mutates every 6 hours. No immune system can adapt that quickly, and yet they are. I transferred my data to the main display. Case after case. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. The human immune system is learning to target the invariant regions of the viral structure, the parts that cannot mutate. And once an individual develops this adaptive immunity, they are sharing it. Sharing it? Tharos spoke up, her voice sharp. How do you share immunity? Blood transfusions, I explained. Plasma donations. They call it convalescent therapy. They take antibody-rich plasma from recovered patients and transfuse it into critical cases. And it works. It actually works. The survival rate among transfused patients is approaching 97%. The silence in the command center was absolute. How many have developed this immunity? Kellex asked quietly. I checked my latest figures. As of 6 hours ago, approximately 80 million humans have fully recovered and possess broad-spectrum immunity. Another 200 million are currently infected but showing signs of adaptive immune response. The projection models suggest that within 30 days, the majority of the human population will be immune. That is impossible, Nira whispered. That is humanity, I corrected. Kellex stared at the data for a long moment. Then he straightened, his posture shifting into command mode. We simply need to accelerate the mutation rate. Jux, contact the bioweapons division. Tell them to modify the virus. Make it mutate every 3 hours instead of 6. Sir, I objected. That will not solve the problem. The humans are not adapting to the mutations. They are adapting to the core structure. Making it mutate faster will not change the core structure. Then tell them to change the core structure, Kellex snapped. If we change the core structure, it will no longer be the same virus. We would essentially be deploying a new weapon, which means starting from scratch, which means giving the humans time to further develop their immunity, which means we have already lost. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. How? Kellex demanded. How are they doing this? Their biology should not allow for this kind of adaptive speed. It takes cycles for evolution to produce immunity, generations, not weeks. I pulled up another set of data, human genome sequences, before and after infection. They are not evolving, Commander, not in the traditional sense. They are adapting. At the individual level, their immune systems are learning, and once they learn, they teach. Through blood, through plasma, through direct antibody transfer. It is not evolution. It is education. Education, Kellex repeated, his voice hollow. Their immune systems are communicating with each other, I continued. Sharing information, sharing solutions. Once one human figures out how to beat the virus, they can teach millions of others within days. We designed a weapon that mutates. They created a defense that learns, and learning is faster than mutation. This is insane, Mira said. This is humanity, I said again. And then it got worse. Because the humans, being humans, did not just stop at developing immunity. Oh no, that would have been too simple, too predictable, too not human. On day 27, I detected unusual biological signatures in the blood samples we had been monitoring. The antibodies were changing, not weakening, changing, improving, "Commander," I reported, trying to keep my voice steady, "the humans are weaponizing their immunity." "Explain," Kellex ordered. "The antibodies they have developed are becoming more aggressive, more effective. In the first-generation recovered patients, the antibodies simply neutralized the virus. In second-generation recovered patients, the antibodies are actively destroying viral particles before they can even attempt cellular penetration. And in third-generation patients," I paused, checking my data 3 times to make sure I was reading it correctly. "In third-generation patients, the antibodies are so efficient that viral particles are eliminated within seconds of exposure. So they are immune," Tharos said. "That is bad, but not catastrophic." "That is not all," I continued. "They are also producing the antibodies in excess, significant excess, far more than necessary for personal immunity, and they are donating, voluntarily, in massive numbers. They have converted thousands of facilities into plasma collection centers. They are creating stockpiles. Enormous stockpiles. Enough antibody-rich plasma to treat billions of people." "Why would they need to treat billions?" Mira asked. "Their population is only 8 billion. I turned to look at her. "Exactly." The implications settled over the command center like a toxic cloud. "They are preparing to share it," Kellex said slowly, "with other species." "Not just share," I corrected. "They are weaponizing their immunity into a universal treatment, a cure, or a virus that mutates every 6 hours. They are creating a biological countermeasure that works regardless of mutation. And if they can do it for this virus, they can do it for any virus, any pathogen, any biological weapon. So we have not just failed to eliminate them," Tharos said quietly. "We have given them the key to defeating biological warfare entirely." "That is correct." "Wow." Kellex sat down heavily, his appendages drooping. For the first time since I had known him, he looked old, tired, defeated. "How?" he asked again. "How are they doing this?" I had spent the last 3 days researching that very question, reading everything I could access about human biology, human history, human culture. And I had found something. Something that should have told us from the beginning that this was a terrible idea. "Commander," I said, pulling up historical records on the display, "did you know that humans have been fighting viruses for their entire evolutionary history? Not just fighting them, surviving them, adapting to them. They call them pandemics, and they have had hundreds of them: smallpox, influenza, HIV, Ebola, SARS, COVID. The list goes on, and every single time they survived. Not just some of them, all of them. As a species, they lost individuals, yes, sometimes millions, but the species always survived, always adapted, always learned." I switched the display to show a human DNA sequence. "Their genome is literally filled with remnants of ancient viral infections, retroviruses that inserted themselves into human DNA thousands of generations ago. And instead of killing them, those viral insertions became part of their biology, part of their evolution, part of what makes them human. They do not just fight viruses. They absorb them, integrate them, learn from them, and use that knowledge to become stronger. So we attacked the one species in the galaxy that has spent millions of years learning how to beat exactly this kind of threat," Mira said. "Yes, and we used a constantly mutating virus, which just made them adapt faster because they have evolved specifically to handle constant variation." "Yes. And now they have immunity that they can share across their entire population in a matter of weeks." "Yes. Yes, we are idiots. Yes." Kellex stood up abruptly. "Abort the mission. Pull back all monitoring stations. Delete all records of the bioweapon development. If the humans ever find out we did this deliberately, they will come for us. And after watching what they just did to our most advanced biological weapon, I do not want to know what they will do to us." "Agreed," Tharos said. The rest of the council murmured their assent. I should have felt relieved. The humans would survive. We would retreat. The crisis would end. But something still bothered me. That instinct again. The one that kept my ancestors alive. "Commander," I said carefully, "there is one more thing." Kellex turned to me slowly. "What now?" I pulled up the latest surveillance footage from Earth. It showed a laboratory. Multiple laboratories, actually. All of them operating at full capacity. The humans are not just developing immunity. They are studying the virus, reverse engineering it, understanding it, and they are learning from it. "Learning what?" Mira demanded. "Learning how we design bioweapons. Learning our techniques, our methodologies, our signatures. They are building a database of Velnath biological technology. And once they understand how we make weapons, they will know how to defend against anything we might create in the future." "But we are not going to create anything in the future," Kellex protested. "This is over. We are done." "Are we, though?" I asked. "Because I am looking at these images and I am seeing something else. I am seeing human scientists working alongside their medical researchers. I am seeing weapons development facilities being repurposed for biological research. I am seeing a species that just survived a devastating bioattack. And instead of breaking, instead of giving up, instead of retreating into fear, they are becoming stronger, more knowledgeable, more prepared." I turned to face the council directly. "We did not just fail to eliminate them, Commander. We gave them a gift. We gave them advanced bioweapon technology to study. We gave them motivation to improve their biological defenses. We gave them a common enemy to unite against. And worst of all, we showed them that we see them as a threat. We showed them that we are willing to kill millions of them to take their territory. We showed them our hand. And now they know." The command center was silent. Completely, utterly silent. "What do we do?" Mira asked finally. I thought about that question. Thought about the humans. Thought about their history, their resilience, their terrifying ability to adapt and overcome. Thought about what I had learned over the past month of watching them fight and survive and thrive despite our best efforts to destroy them. "We pray," I said quietly, "that they are more merciful than we are, because when they come for us, and they will come for us, our only hope is that they remember we are not worth the trouble." And that, my friends, is where part 1 of this disaster ends. The virus mutated. The humans adapted faster. And we, the mighty Velnath Collective, learned a very important lesson about attacking species we do not fully understand. The lesson: do not poke the humans. Ever. But of course, this story is not over. Not even close. Because what happened next makes everything I have told you so far look like a minor inconvenience. So, remember how I said we should pray the humans would be merciful? Well, prayers do not work when you are dealing with a species that just survived your best attempt at genocide. Trust me on this one. It took exactly 6 days for everything to go from bad to catastrophic. 6 days. I have owned houseplants that lived longer than our hopes of avoiding consequences. Day 33 after deployment. I was in my quarters, trying to enjoy a meal and pretend that my career was not spiraling into a black hole, when the alarms started screaming. Not the gentle reminder alarms. The full-scale drop everything, someone is about to die alarms. I rushed to the command center, my meal forgotten. Kellex was already there, his 4 eyes locked onto the main display with an expression I can only describe as existential horror. "What happened?" I demanded. "They found us," Kellex whispered. On the display, a human ship hung in space approximately 2,000 kilometers from our monitoring station. It should not have been there. It definitely should not have been able to approach without our sensors detecting it. Yet there it was, sleek and silver, broadcasting a message on all frequencies. "This is Captain Amanda Foster of the Earth Defense Vessel Resilience. We need to talk." Mira turned to Kellex. "Sir, what are your orders?" Kellex stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he did something I never expected. He laughed. Not a happy laugh. The kind of laugh you make when you realize the universe has a terrible sense of humor and you are the punchline. "Open a channel," he ordered. The screen flickered, and suddenly we were looking at a human. Captain Amanda Foster, apparently. She was younger than I expected. Dark skin, sharp eyes, hair pulled back in what I later learned they call a bun. She wore a uniform, dark blue with silver insignia. And she was smiling. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile a predator makes when it has cornered its prey. "Greetings, Commander Kellex of the Velnath Collective," she said. Her voice was calm, measured, terrifying in its composure. "I hope we are not interrupting anything important." "How did you find us?" Kellex asked. "Oh, that was easy," Foster replied, her smile widening slightly. "You see, when you release a bioweapon designed specifically to target human biology, it kind of has a signature. A biological fingerprint, if you will. And once we figured out that signature, well, tracking it back to its source was just a matter of following the breadcrumbs." "We did not leave breadcrumbs," Mira protested. Foster laughed. Actually laughed. "You released trillions of microscopic drones into our atmosphere. Did you really think none of them would malfunction? We recovered 47 of them, intact, complete with navigational data, manufacturing signatures, and my personal favorite, return coordinates for your monitoring station. So thank you for that." I closed my eyes. Of course. Of course the drones had return coordinates. How else would we retrieve them for data analysis? How else would we track deployment success? We had literally given the humans a map to our doorstep. "What do you want?" Kellex asked, his voice tight. "What do I want?" Foster leaned forward slightly. "Commander, you killed 23 million of my people. You deliberately released a biological weapon designed to wipe out our entire species. You tried to commit genocide. So what do I want?" "That is an excellent question." The silence in our command center was suffocating. This was it. This was where the humans would demand our surrender, our territory, our resources. This was where we would pay for our arrogance with blood and servitude. This was where we would learn what happens when you attack humanity and fail. Foster straightened in her chair. "I want you to help us." I blinked, all three of my eyelids. "Excuse me?" "Help us," Foster repeated. "You see, Commander, your virus was actually quite impressive. The mutation rate, the targeting precision, the delivery system. Really top-notch work. And while we managed to beat it, the process taught us something important. There are other threats out there, other species, other viruses, and we need to be prepared." "You want our bioweapon research?" Kellex asked slowly, suspicion dripping from every word. "Oh, we already have that," Foster said cheerfully. "We reverse-engineered your virus completely about 2 weeks ago. No, what we want is collaboration. Partnership. You clearly have advanced knowledge of biological warfare. We now have advanced knowledge of biological defense. It seems like we could benefit from combining our expertise." "You want to work with us," Mira said flatly, "after we tried to exterminate you." "Well, when you put it like that, it does sound a bit odd," Foster admitted. "But here is the thing. We did some research on the Velnath Collective, your history, your conflicts, your enemies, and we noticed something interesting. You have been attacked by biological weapons 16 times in the past 2 centuries. 16 times. And every single time, millions of your people died before you could develop a countermeasure." She paused, letting that sink in. "We beat your weapon in 33 days, she continued. "From complete surprise to full immunity in just over a month. Now imagine if we shared that capability with you. Imagine if the next time someone attacks you with a bioweapon, you could have a cure ready in weeks instead of years. Imagine how many lives that would save." "Why would you help us?" I asked. "We tried to kill you. Officer's expression turned serious. Because, Officer Vorn, we are not you. We do not respond to attempted genocide with actual genocide. We respond with an opportunity for something better. You made a mistake. A huge, catastrophic, unforgivable mistake. But you are not the first species to make that mistake. And you will not be the last. We can either spend the next century fighting each other, or we can spend it making sure nobody ever successfully deploys a bioweapon against anyone ever again. That is insane, Kellex muttered. That is humanity, I said for the third time in a month. Foster grinned. Officer Vorn gets it. So here is our offer. You give us everything you know about biological threats in this region of space. Everything. We give you our adaptive immunity technology and training in rapid response protocols. We establish a joint research facility, neutral territory, equal partnership. And in exchange, you agree to never, ever, ever try this kind of thing again. With anyone. Ever. And if we refuse? Kellex asked. The grin disappeared from Foster's face. Then we share our findings with the Galactic Council. Every species in this sector gets to know that the Velnath Collective attempted to commit genocide using biological weapons. We provide them with complete documentation, evidence, testimony, and then we let them decide what to do with you. I am told that 14 species on the Council have very strong feelings about bioweapons, something about past experiences. Kellex's appendages drooped. That is blackmail. That is justice, Foster corrected. You attempted mass murder. We are offering you a chance at redemption instead of punishment. Take the deal, Commander, please. Because I really do not want to see what happens if you do not. I watched Kellex struggle with the decision. Watched his pride war with his survival instinct. Watched him realize, slowly, that we had no choice. We never had a choice. Not from the moment we decided to attack a species we did not understand. I need to consult with the High Council, he said finally. Of course, Foster agreed. You have 48 hours. After that, we share our findings regardless of your decision. But I really hope you make the right choice. We could do great things together. Or terrible things to each other. I know which one I prefer. The screen went dark. Nobody spoke for a long time. Then Tharos, who had been silent throughout the entire exchange, started laughing. Deep, wheezing laughs that shook her entire frame. What is so funny? Mira demanded. We tried to kill them, Tharos gasped between laughs. We tried to wipe them out, and they responded by offering us a trade agreement and medical assistance. We are either dealing with the most forgiving species in the galaxy, or the most terrifying. Possibly both. She was right, of course, and I knew exactly which one they were. The High Council meeting was, predictably, a disaster. Half the Council wanted to refuse out of pride. The other half wanted to refuse out of fear. I sat in the observation gallery and listened to them argue for 6 hours straight. We cannot work with them, Councillor Drax argued. They are primitives, barely out of their own solar system. What could they possibly teach us? They beat our best bioweapon in a month, I called out from the gallery. I would say they could teach us quite a lot. Silence, Observer Vorn, Drax snapped. You do not have speaking privileges in this chamber. Then grant them to me, I snapped back, because someone needs to inject some common sense into this discussion. To my surprise, Tharos raised an appendage. I moved to grant Observer Vorn temporary speaking privileges. We need his perspective. Seconded. Another councillor murmured. Several others added their agreement. Drax looked furious but could not argue with protocol. Granted. Speak, Vorn. Quickly. I descended to the floor, my heart's pounding. This was it. My one chance to prevent another catastrophe. Councillors. I have spent the past month studying the humans, their history, their biology, their psychology. And I have learned something crucial. When humans are attacked, they do not just survive. They evolve, They adapt. They become stronger. Every war they have ever fought has made them more dangerous. Every disaster they have ever faced has made them more resilient. Every challenge they have ever encountered has made them more innovative. Your point? Drax demanded. My point is that we made them stronger. Every human who survived our virus is now immune. But more than that, they are educated. They understand biological warfare now. They understand mutation. They understand adaptation. We gave them a master class in how to beat bioweapons, and now they are offering to share that knowledge with us. Why would they do that? Another counselor asked. It makes no strategic sense. It makes perfect sense. I countered, if you understand human psychology, humans do not think in terms of dominance and submission. They think in terms of problems and solutions. We were a problem. They solved us. Now they see a bigger problem, biological warfare across the galaxy. And they want to solve that too, by working with us, by turning enemies into allies, by creating something bigger than revenge. That is naive? Drax scoffed. Is it though? I pulled up data on the main display. In human history, they have formed alliances with former enemies dozens of times. Nations that fought brutal wars against each other became trading partners within decades. Enemies became allies, became friends. It is not naive. It is practical. It is efficient. It is very, very human. And what happens when they have what they want from us? Drax challenged. What happens when they have learned everything we know and they no longer need us? What stops them from attacking us? Nothing, I admitted. Absolutely nothing. Except their own nature. And based on everything I have seen, their nature is not to destroy former enemies. It is to integrate them, to build something new, to create partnerships that benefit everyone. Will it always work? No. But it works often enough that they keep trying. You are asking us to trust them, Tharos said quietly, after we tried to exterminate them. I am asking you to recognize reality, I replied. We cannot beat them. Not militarily. Not biologically. Not technologically. They are advancing too fast, learning too quickly, adapting too effectively. Our only options are partnership or isolation. And isolation just means we fall behind while they continue to advance. Partnership means we advance with them. Or they destroy us from within, Drax muttered. They could destroy us from without any time they want, I pointed out. Captain Foster found our monitoring station. Do you really think they do not know where our homeworld is, where our colonies are, where our military installations are? They have our drone navigation data. They have everything. The fact that they are offering partnership instead of punishment is not a trap, it is mercy, and we would be fools to refuse it. The chamber fell silent. Counselors looked at each other, uncertainty written across their features. Finally, High Counselor Vex spoke. She was ancient, older even than Tharos, and her word carried weight. Observer Vorn raises valid points. The question before us is not whether we trust the humans. The question is whether we trust ourselves to handle the consequences if we refuse. I vote to accept their offer. As do I, Tharos added immediately. One by one, other counselors added their votes. Drax held out until the end, but eventually even he conceded. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. We would partner with the humans. I wish I could say that the partnership was smooth and easy and everyone became best friends immediately. That would be a nice story. It would also be a complete lie. The first meeting at the Joint Research Facility was tense. Velnath scientists on one side, human scientists on the other, everyone suspicious and nervous and trying very hard to pretend they were comfortable. Dr. Lisa Park represented the human delegation. She was small, even for a human, with black hair streaked with gray and glasses that magnified her eyes slightly. She looked harmless. She was anything but. Thank you all for coming, she began, standing at the front of the conference room. I know this situation is awkward for everyone. You tried to kill us. We survived. Now we are supposed to work together. It is weird. I get it. Several Velnath scientists made uncomfortable noises. The humans simply nodded. But here is the thing, Park continued. Weird or not, we have work to do. There are 17 known biological threats currently active in this sector. Threats that could devastate any of our species if deployed effectively. We need to develop countermeasures fast. So I propose we put aside the uncomfortable feelings and focus on the science. Can we do that? Our head scientist, researcher Quilm, raised a tentacle. How do you propose we proceed? By sharing everything, Park said simply. You show us your bioweapon research, all of it, and we will show you our adaptive immunity protocols, all of them. Complete transparency. No secrets, no hidden agendas, just science. That is a significant security risk, Quilm protested. So is dying from a bioweapon you could have prevented, Park countered. Look, I understand the concern. Really, I do. But we cannot build trust without taking risks. Someone has to go first. We are willing to. Are you? I watched Quilm struggle with the decision. Then, slowly, he extended a data pad. Our complete research archives, everything we have developed over the past 3 centuries. Park took the pad, examined it briefly, then handed over her own data pad. Our adaptive immunity research. Everything we learned from surviving your virus, plus everything we have developed since. The exchange was simple. Quick, almost anticlimactic, but it changed everything. Over the next 6 months, I watched something remarkable happen. The Velnath and human scientists stopped being 2 separate groups. They started working together, sharing ideas, solving problems. Even, and this shocked me more than anything, becoming friends. I would walk through the facility and see Quilm and Park arguing about protein structures, their disagreement fierce but friendly. I would pass laboratories where Velnath and human researchers worked side by side, their appendages and hands moving in synchronized precision. I would sit in on briefings where ideas flowed freely across species boundaries, each side building on what the other contributed. It should not have worked. By every logical metric, it should have failed. These were people who had tried to kill each other, who had every reason to hate each other, who had generations of mistrust to overcome. But it worked anyway, because the humans made it work, not through force or manipulation, but through simple persistence. They kept showing up, kept being helpful, they kept treating their Velnath colleagues not as enemies or rivals, but as partners. And eventually, inevitably, the Velnath responded in kind. 3 months into the partnership, we had developed broad-spectrum vaccines for 6 of the 17 known threats. 6 months in, we had developed rapid response protocols that could generate custom immunity treatments in under 48 hours. By the end of the first year, we had created a biological defense network that protected 17 different species across 4 sectors. And the humans, true to their word, shared everything freely. No patents, no proprietary technology, no demands for exclusive rights. They gave it all away, asking only that recipients share their own advances in return. I do not understand them, Quilm confessed to me one evening watching Dr. Park explain something complex to a group of junior researchers. They should hate us. We killed millions of their people. But they act as if it never happened. It is not that they forgot, I said quietly. It is that they chose to move forward instead of backward. Revenge would be easy. Partnership is hard. They chose hard. Why, though? I thought about that question for a long time. Then I remembered something I had read in my research, something a human had written centuries ago. Because they believe the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. They believe that good eventually wins, not through force, but through persistence. They believe that today's enemy can become tomorrow's friend if you give them the chance. And most importantly, They believe that belief itself is worth fighting for. That is illogical, Quilm said. That is humanity, I replied. Again. The incident that truly demonstrated the value of our partnership happened 18 months after we started working together. A bioweapon attack hit the Krell Republic, a species 3 sectors away. Something nasty. Something engineered. Something designed to be unstoppable. The Krell sent out a desperate plea for help, and their population was dying. Their medical system was collapsing. They had weeks, maybe days, before total societal breakdown. The humans responded immediately. So did we. Dr. Park and researcher Quilm took a joint team to Krell Prime. They brought our adaptive immunity technology, their rapid response protocols, and every bit of knowledge we had accumulated over the past year and a half. I monitored the situation from our facility, watching the data streams with increasing anxiety. But the Krell bioweapon was sophisticated, more sophisticated than ours had been. It attacked multiple systems simultaneously, mutated aggressively, and had built-in resistance to standard immunity responses. For 3 days, I thought we would fail. The death toll climbed. The Krell government prepared for evacuation. Their military started discussing last resort options. Then, on day 4, Park and Quilm cracked it. Together. They identified the weakness in the weapon's structure, developed a targeted immunity response, and synthesized enough treatment for the entire Krell population in under 12 hours. The Krell recovered. All of them. Well, all except those who had died before treatment arrived, but everyone else survived. Completely. Permanently immune. The Krell ambassador personally thanked us in a galactic broadcast. The humans and the Velnath have given us a gift beyond measure. They have given us life. They have shown us that cooperation across species lines is not just possible, but powerful. They have demonstrated that our differences make us stronger, not weaker. We owe them a debt we can never repay. I watched that broadcast with Kellex, who had remained commander despite everything. He turned to me, his expression thoughtful. We would have died, he said quietly. If the humans had not stopped us from deploying that virus, if they had not forced us into partnership, if they had not shared their technology. The Krell weapon would have killed us just as surely as it tried to kill them. We would have had no defense, no knowledge, no hope. Yes, I agreed. We tried to commit genocide, Kellex continued, and they saved us anyway, by forcing us to be better, by showing us a different way, by refusing to let us remain enemies. Yes, they are terrifying, he whispered. Yes, I said one final time. They really, really are. 5 years have passed since we deployed the Cascade virus. 5 years since we learned the hard way not to underestimate humanity. 5 years since we became unwitting partners in the greatest biological defense network the galaxy has ever seen. The joint facility now employs over 3,000 researchers from 47 different species. We have prevented 8 major bioweapon attacks, developed immunity protocols for 214 different pathogens, and established rapid response teams that can deploy to anywhere in 4 sectors within 48 hours. The humans lead most of the initiatives, not because we granted them authority, but because they are simply better at this than anyone else. Their adaptive capacity, their collaborative instinct, their relentless optimism in the face of impossible challenges. It makes them natural leaders in biological defense. And us? We contribute, we research, we learn. We try to be worthy of the second chance they gave us. I ran into Captain Foster last month at a conference. She has been promoted twice since we first met. Admiral Foster now, in charge of Earth's entire biological defense program. Observer Vorn, she greeted me warmly. How are things? Good, I replied honestly. Complicated, but good. I wanted to thank you. For what? For not destroying us when you had the chance, or for offering partnership instead of revenge, or for showing us a better way. Foster smiled. That same predator smile from 5 years ago. except now I understood it better. It was not the smile of a predator stalking prey. It was the smile of someone who had won a victory so complete, so total, that revenge was unnecessary. "You know what the funny thing is?" she said. "We never wanted to destroy you. Even when you were killing us, even when millions were dying, we never wanted revenge. We just wanted to survive. And once we survived, we wanted to make sure nobody else had to go through what we went through, including you." "That is insane," I said. "That is humanity," she replied, grinning wider. "We are adaptable, Vorn, not just biologically, culturally, ethically, strategically. You threw your best weapon at us, and we adapted so fast we turned it into an opportunity. That is what we do. We adapt. We overcome. We build something better from the ruins of something terrible." "And if someone attacks you again?" I asked. "What then?" "Then." Foster's smile turned thoughtful. "Then we adapt again. And we build again. And we offer partnership again. Because that is who we are. We could be conquerors if we wanted. We have the capacity. But we choose to be builders instead. It is harder. It is slower. It is infinitely more frustrating. But it works. And it is right, so we keep doing it." She paused, then added, "Besides, we learned something important from your attack. We learned that any species capable of developing bioweapons is also capable of developing biodefenses. If we work with you instead of against you, we all become safer. Simple math, really." "You make it sound easy." "It is not easy," Foster admitted. "It is the hardest thing in the galaxy. But it is worth it. And 5 years from now, when another crisis hits, you will be glad we made you take the hard path. Trust me." She was right, of course. She is always right. Humans have this infuriating habit of being right even when they should not be. So here we are, 5 years later. The virus mutated. The humans adapted faster. And somehow, impossibly, we all ended up better for it. I still do not fully understand humans. I doubt I ever will. They are chaotic and optimistic and illogically hopeful and absolutely terrifying in their capacity to turn disaster into opportunity. But I am glad they exist. I am glad they survived. And I am very, very glad we are on their side now. Because if there is one lesson I have learned from this entire catastrophic mess, it is this: never, ever, ever underestimate humanity. They will surprise you. They will adapt faster than you thought possible. They will turn your weapons into their tools. They will offer you friendship when you deserve destruction. And they will make you better whether you want to be or not. The virus mutated. The humans adapted faster. And the galaxy became a safer place because of it. That is the story. That is the truth. That is why, when new species ask me about humans, I always tell them the same thing. Make friends with them. Do not make enemies of them. Because if you attack humanity, the best-case scenario is that you lose. The worst-case scenario is that you win, and then you have to live with what you have done. The humans will forgive you.